with our second guest, Anya from Paradox. Please welcome. Very nice to see you here. Thanks a lot for coming. Yeah, loved the idea of your topic. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Anya. Thank you for having me here. I'm gonna welcome you on my sweet and nice ramble about quality and how we think about quality at Paradox. So my presentation will be divided into, I would say, two main sections. One is hopefully shorter than the other one. So the first one, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit and talk about Paradox and give you some context, because I believe it's going to be important for you to know about this before we actually jump into quality and discussing that. Hopefully, I will finish in 30 minutes and we can have some questions, but I cannot promise because I love to chat. Sorry about that. Yeah, let's get started then. And let's hope this thing works this time. Right, okay, so who I am. Yes, I'm Anya, as I said. I have more than 6 years of experience in game development. I actually started, my background lies fully in project management and production. So I'm this person that is dealing with scheduling, planning, teams, like building of teams, budget, and all of this boring stuff all my life in game development. I started in mobile and then transitioned to PC and console. While being at Paradox. Besides development, I also touched a little bit on publishing and outsourcing. Been working with different teams, like from 10 people to 100, games that are in development, live games. So yeah, touched a little bit of everything, I think. For 2.5 years right now, I'm at Paradox, and I'm production director there. What it means that I'm this archi producer that is basically bringing in the strategic overview of the processes and pipelines, not necessarily project specific, but rather portfolio specific. So my job is basically to make sure that we have good portfolio and we can develop as a studio as well. Now, Paradox. Do you know Paradox, Interactive, Crusader Kings, Stellaris, Hearts of Iron? So yeah, this company, basically, this tiny little company. We are, oh my God, it's not a good formatting, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna talk more then. So basically, the company is very much famous for its grand strategy portfolios. This is our niche. This is what we do. This is what we know how to do, or we believe so, at least. We're this, nerdy company. We make the spreadsheet games, basically. We have offices in Europe and HQ in Stockholm, also some offices in North America. We are around 800 people right now. Fun fact, I think it was in 2011, we were around 50 people. Right now we're at 100. It's pretty amazing growth, but mostly it's because we're also acquiring lots of studios. So they're becoming part of the family, and then, this is how we grow. We are mostly focusing on PC market, but we also have some titles on consoles. Basically, it's the same PC titles, but we just, port them on consoles afterwards. This means that we are basically present on all of the major storefronts that are associated with the platforms, which is, Steam, Microsoft, PC Store, EGS, what have you. We also have some games running on Steam Deck, but they say it's not a very nice experience, in fact. So yeah, let's not touch about that. Before jumping into quality as well, I would like to highlight that, when you hear Paradox Interactive, you probably imagine a big company, which is true, yeah. 800 people, right? That's a big company. But it's important to distinguish because Paradox is having these two big branches. The first branch is about publishing. This is actually where I started when I just joined Paradox. And the second big branch is about development. And these two are in perfect, sometimes not so perfect, but in synergy. So basically we have people who are making games, creating games, and some people, quite some people actually, who are making a product out of those games. And this is something that we're going to be talking more about when I'm going to be talking more about the quality, actually. Now, I think the last context slide before we can talk a little bit more about the quality itself. So some context again. And this context is basically some pillars that I consider to be very important when it comes to quality. So first, everything we do impacts quality. and everybody, in fact. So basically, people, tools, processes, Office, everything we believe is impacting the quality in the end of the day. We don't like to say that it's game director's responsibility, for example, to ship the best quality to the game. Because, what is quality? If you think that the game quality is fun core gameplay loops, okay. But what about, so you do live service, and how you communicate with the players is also quality, right? Or, I don't know, you're a producer, you're responsible for the timeline. What if you put not enough time buffer for the, polishing stage, and you don't have time to test everything? Is it also the game developer's responsibility? The thing is that you can appoint a person that will be, let's say, a champion for the whole game and a representative for the whole game. But at the end of the day, it's the whole team that is delivering the game and the product. And when you put things like this, it's becoming much more easier for you to actually not only to distribute basically the accountability and responsibility between different parties, but it also makes how you understand the quality, like this concept, actually more complex and more true. Because again, quality is not only a core loops. It's not only about game design. It's about lots of different factors. And not always being in one role, you have power over all these domains. And you need to have this power to actually act on something. Now, second one. We are part of the very competitive business, and we understand that, and we embrace this. We literally compete for people's time, and our average session in the game lasts hours. Not everybody has this amount of time to play the games. What it means, basically, is that we need to constantly develop. We need to constantly evolve. Sometimes fail, and then just, stand up and move on. And this is how we go, and this is what we believe this is the right thing. We just embrace the change. The last but not the least, we make entertainment. I like this one because when you say we make games, it's good, and many people understand what you mean, but it's limiting you a little bit because game is like what, piece of software? When you say we make entertainment, is also a little bit kind of insinuating that you're talking also about business, which is good because you need to talk about business. You cannot just separate these parts in a sense, right? And I like also this example that you can create a recipe for creating some entertainment, like a story, a movie, comic book, or a game, but you might not come up with the perfect recipe for a perfect game. Thing is, Paradox never has the target of making a hit. We just want to build a decent product. Then, if it becomes a hit, right away, or after some time, it's awesome. But the thing is, if you just straightforward would put in front of you the goal that you want to make a hit, it puts you in a very inconvenient situation. Well, it's just hard to find this recipe. Sometimes hits are made, of course, by multiple things, and you can put lots of time, lots of money into a product, but there is still something that can just, spark this. And you cannot have responsibility over it. Moreover, you cannot take control over it, and we like to take control over things. There is a difference between high quality and target quality. High quality can be different for everyone. It can be just, for you, target, like high quality is one thing, for me it's something totally different. But when you say target quality, you can contain it. You can start thinking about this, you can start thinking how to measure it, and it's much better. In this sense, we don't like to say, we need to always make hits. This is just not working, right? And then, again, like a perfect example, we would rather say that, we will make decent game and then develop it into a hit. Yes, things can go super right, and we can have Crusader Kings 3. Awesome. Ready hit, straight away. Lots of people, lots of words and everything. But sometimes it takes time. Look at Stellaris. It was released in 2016. And trust me, it was far from being perfect. The Stellaris back then and Stellaris right now are totally different products. Stellaris right now is one of our major IPs. That is, actually, some people actually know about Paradox because of Stellaris. But back then, it wasn't so. We made this product a hit. It just took time. Hopefully, looking at the point 2, it will take us just not that long next time. But we will not target at being perfect. Right. Sorry. Yes, I talked about this already. Sorry. Nice. Quality drivers. Yeah, we're moving on to actually like the whole thing here, right? So there are 3 quality drivers at Paradox, or at least this is how we like speak about it, right? So business, internal quality targets, and external drivers, which are basically player expectations. I will go through all of them in a little bit more detail and give you some glimpse on, okay, so how we measure this during the development, when it's live, and how we can actually influence this, right? And instead of just, going and maybe reading through this, I will just, maybe give you some idea about what I consider to be the most important part in each driver, right? And this is also why I was giving you some context before, because business basically, it's a lot about publishing, it's a lot about money, it's a lot about how we actually make the game a product. That internal quality targets is something that the developers are coming up with during the development. And this is less about money already, this is more about the experience. And of course, external stakeholders, community, they are of course a very essential part of our business here. And we are listening to their feedback. And this is what actually helps us to develop from just a game, just make it a hit, like with Stellaris example, for example. Right, business drivers. So, I mean, in the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Business is about money. So you just look at the, how you call it, like analytic boards, right? You see this metrics, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is good, this is not good. We have the major challenge here connected with, it's pretty hard to influence business drivers during the development. Our development cycle takes pretty long. And we're a premium segment. So we are building the ready product, we're putting it on the market, we're charging money for it, right? So it's a little bit different from free-to-play market here. And how you're gonna measure business drivers like money before you actually start selling the game, it's not that easy. Of course, you can look at wish lists and pre-orders, that's fine, but it's still pretty close to the development. So what we're coming up with, usually, we are creating business case, we're creating business pillars. I would say it's nothing too elaborate. It's again like your audience, something that we were hearing before during the previous presentation, right? So we still need to come up with that. We analyze the market, we analyze our players, we understand what we actually want to deliver in terms of fantasy. And if our team is also capable of delivering that, it's also very important. You need to understand that you can think that you are very much expert in building this particular game. And this is something proven. Like, for example, I don't know, we build grand strategy games. This is what we know. But at the end of the day, there are many factors that are coming in when you're building a game. For example, if your core team left, who's going to be building this game? This is already not that much proven, because all this expertise is gone. If you delivered basically like multiple games in one genre, but then you decide to go another platform, it's not just port, it's a new game. And if your team, for example, never had experience with consoles, I'm sorry, but you're going to have problems. And if you don't realize that, well, yeah, good luck. But the thing is, yes, the tricky part here is that how to connect as business drivers to development, to the stage when you actually hasn't started to receive like money metrics in this or that way. And the second challenge is that usually devs are pretty disconnected from business. And you need to explain to them a lot why actually like being connected to this is important. And I can tell you why it's important. Because if you build the pillars, if you build, let's say, the core principles of your game, there are sometimes maybe a little bit, you can feel that, this is not too creative, why we should think about money and all of that. Well, but if you do this effort, then it's going to be very much easier for you to prioritize things during the development. You will face the problem of scope creeping. You will face the problem of when you need to cut something and kill your babies. If you have your core pillars present, if you know how to reconnect to them and how your devs can reconnect to them, you will have much easier time prioritizing this. So this is important. I'm going to probably speed up a little bit. Now, internal quality targets. This is somewhat easier, right? Because, I mean, we are creating tools to track quality during the development. That's all right. I would say the trickiest thing here, because, again, everything here is pretty much straightforward, right? Yes, during the development, iterations, feedback, demos, all of that. Every company has something in these lines. After the release, same thing, but we also check Metacritic score and Steam score. We actually also set the targets for our games, what we want to achieve. I mean, sometimes it happens, sometimes it's not, right? But the most important here is actually Steam score because it's changing over time. Metacritic doesn't. But yeah, we can talk about it more. I don't want to stop here. Anyways, and you can, of course, influence this, right? You can fix the game, you can do iterations, you can set the milestone targets for yourself, or sprint targets, doesn't matter. But the core thing here is that this is iterations. What's the most important during iterations? Sticking to your vision. And I like how it actually reconnects to the previous slide here. You can create your vision that is maybe only focusing on the creative side, but if it's connected also to the business side, and if it's stable, and you're able to keep it and stick to it, it's going to be much, much easier for you to go through development. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't change it. Sometimes you should. But if you're constantly in this moment of choosing what mountain to climb, and you're already past pre-production, well, it's a problem. You're burning money, you're not getting to the result. So here, I would say, on this, during this slide and this talk, I would like to emphasize that yes, you can change your pillars. And by the way, pre-production is specifically existing for that. But it's very important to realize that at some point, you need to stop iterating that much. You need to stick to your vision. You need to believe in this. And this is just how you go, and this is how you're going to prioritize further on. And last but not the least, external drivers, players, right? Our major stakeholders. You can see actually lots of repetition here, right? How we measure it and how we go about influencing this and etc. I mean, this is pretty much understandable. And again, I like the fact that this is all interconnected because players are kind of validating our dreams and how we think about what is cool. This is very nice. And what I would like to emphasize here is this part, expectation management, because what we saw in our practice is that it's not only enough to tell players during, I don't know, your dev diaries or beta tests and what have you. It's not only important to tell them what your game is. It's equally important, sometimes even more important, to tell them what your game isn't. It will take time to learn because sometimes you basically just, it's a bummer for players. Somebody tells you you're going to have a strategy game. You can, I don't know, it's turn-based combat. You can create, you can build up your own castle, and you can go on war with somebody and collect resources on the map. And it's a fantasy setting. And I immediately come up with, oh, Heroes of Might and Magic. Cool, nice, my favorite game. And then it's not, and I'm disappointed. Right? The recent example was the Victoria release. We put lots of effort into emphasizing that this is not a game about warfare. It's a socio-economical simulator. We focus on diplomacy. But there was still, some criticism about that, which we were, of course, prepared for. And I cannot even imagine how much more we would face if we wouldn't even put in an effort to explain that, look, if you like warfare, go to play Hearts of Iron. We have a game for you. Here you go. So yeah, expectation management, trying to kind of say what your game is not, what you're not trying to solve here is also very important. Yeah, so just to sum up, we believe that only a combination of these three factors can actually bring you to a good quality. Business, players, and devs. Because, again, quality is not just about design. This is at least how we believe it. And again, I'm not selling you some, preaching you or giving you some silver bullet. You might have something else that is working, right? But what I'm trying to say that at Paradox, we do believe that only combination of these things can actually bring you to success. Because again, quality sometimes is not only about rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes it's something very much specific. And you need to understand it and you need to analyze it. But I'm going to iterate on this a little bit more in my couple of next slides. Okay. I still have some time. So yeah, a little bit more about the quality from a dev perspective, right? So we talked about business, we talked about players, we talked a little bit about dev perspective, but now I'm gonna dive deeper a little bit more into dev perspective of things. So yeah, I don't like this wording subjective, objective quality, but this is just the best way I can describe it, just for the purpose of the presentation. So when I was saying that quality is not just game design, it's not about fun, it's not about core loops, right? This is actually what I was building. I was building this up for that. We like to talk about subjective, objective quality, meaning subjective quality is about game is fun. Objective is about if the game is functional. I spotted many times when actually the second bubble was ignored, or you're not putting lots of effort into actually describing all of that. And most of the people think about, okay, so we need to prove core loops, we need to make sure the game is fun, blah, 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 and that, no, this is a fair value per price. This is totally so. And actually, I'm not even saying that this is not important. This is very, very important. But the thing is, again, this is very much hard to evaluate. This is very much hard to put it on paper. I'm not saying this is impossible, but yeah, there are so many like these tiny details. There's like this fluffy stuff that you need to take into consideration. And in the end, it might not work. There will be people who won't like it, and it's going to disappoint you. So it's really, really hard. But it's still important. On the contrary, you have objective targets about functionality of your game. Because your game doesn't matter if it's fun or not, it should just run. It should not crash. Ideally, have 0 bugs at the release, which is never happening, but still, you can at least target at that, right? Ideally, you can influence production values. I mean, you can auto soundtrack from a, I don't know, instrumental orchestra, or you can just download something, some sounds, and it's here we go, right? You can influence that, and the game, the product, will be already looking differently. And again, maybe your game is super fun, like 100% fun, but if it's constantly crashing and constantly buggy, how much time players will actually give you to experience all that? I don't know, especially in our games. So, neglecting this part is just very, very bad. Moreover, this part can give you much, much more agency to deal with. Yes, you might say you still need some money and time to put into basically this part to make it happen. Yes, it's true, but come on, you just need to find time and money. And basically, you can always somehow bring it up. So you feel with this much more in control of the situation. You can at least plan for it, come on, in your budget. This is something that you can really put some time and effort into, like basically mapping out. Because money won't give you 100% that it's going to be a fun game. Doesn't matter how you burn. But this can actually win you extra points in players' eyes. I like this one a lot. It might be a little bit confusing, but I'll try to explain. So this is also the continuation of the previous topics, right, on being in control of the situation. So there is a dilemma in game development. In the beginning of the development cycle, you have more resources, more time, sometimes more people, sometimes more money, right? It depends. But all in all, you have more resources and more opportunities. And ideally, you want to tackle with the issues at this stage because you just can do this. But the problem is you cannot spot them that early because, come on, there is not everything in the game yet. Obvious, right? At the same time, the closer you are to the release, it flips around. You see much, much more things to tackle, much, much more bugs to fix. You need to prioritize heavily. And the resources are shrinking and shrinking constantly. And this is the dilemma. And this is very hard. If you see this, you might think, okay, so what am I going to do about this? Well, you can work around this, but you cannot, change it a lot. But at least realizing that this is his dilemma, you can put lots of effort into finding ways how to detect things early on when I can handle with them. And this is the core principle that we try to develop at Paradox. Try to find for every product, for every DLC that we're releasing, a way how to detect problems early on. It can be not only bugs, it can be problems with, I don't know, your vision, whatever. But killing something early on is much easier before you actually go on. In pre-production, this is actually why it's for. And again, you won't be perfect, but you can try to be. And this is actually what is putting you in control. This is something that puts you in a driver's seat. And this is what we like. Jesus Christ, my beautiful presentation is all ruined. Anyways, how you can actually make it. And again, every studio is coming up with their own formula of how to find this balance, how to detect things earlier, right? But everybody's actually aligned on one thing. The more strong foundations you have, the better you are. And we're going to talk probably about pitching to publishing, right? The next speech is about that. But the thing is that we are the publisher as well, and we are the most evil publisher towards ourselves. We ask ourselves the most hard questions in the very beginning before we start doing things. Because if you don't do this, you have this, like, okay, maybe if I don't think about it, it's gonna be gone, but it's not. And you know what happens? You ignore all these questions. You don't think about it because, come on, why I should be thinking about the clean code in the beginning? I will think about it later. Come on, why I should think about localization languages? It's gonna come later. Like, let's just focus on building something up just right now, right? And then we will see how it goes, right? But then what happens? What you saw on the previous slide. You're becoming closer and closer to your milestone, to the release date or what have you, and you're just running out of resources. And then you need the choice to make about cutting things and everything. It's just much harder. Not even telling about stress the team is under. So just take a moment to, like map out what is actually important for your game. Edge rating, yes, it is important for your game. Come on, it's content. How are you going to write your stories? Is it like for kids or it's 18 plus? It's very important, think about it. And the point is, you don't have to give answers straight away. You won't get them that early, but it will really ground you. It will really settle you down a little bit with your ambition. It will give you much more realistic understanding of what you're trying to pull off here. And this is the most important thing, because again, come on, development of the games is not rainbows and unicorns all the time. It's gonna be very, very hard. So take a moment to just understand how hard it can be. Yes, and get stress maybe, and then tonus in the beginning, and then get a relief, rather than vice versa, So this is really important. And again, this will take time, of course. But we believe that setting this ambition in the very beginning and understanding how far you can go will really empower you. And this is where actually this golden triangle, which is a very banal thing in the end of the day, will work in a most efficient way. Because you will know where to put effort. You will know, like, okay, so if I have problems, probably, I don't know, with timeline, right? I mean, how realistic my timeline is. Looking at all of this, what we lined up right now for ourselves. Our team hasn't shipped any game like sim shipping, God bless, but come on, sim shipping on consoles and PC. Huge work, we haven't done this before. Is our timeline like for 2.5 years even realistic? Come on, certification period on consoles is lasting months. Do you realize this? So you can at least, bat these questions in your head. And as I said, money won't guarantee that the game is fun. But money can guarantee this, that you can put more QA. You can throw, thousands of QA on your game. And maybe it will be at least perfect on that side. The question is, do you want to do this? But this is the second question. And the scope. Again, we are not making hits. We make decent games. And understanding of good enough takes time. It really takes time for the team to understand this concept, and you will never be perfect. And I would like to wrap up this whole ranting session a little bit by just saying that Paradox is not targeting again, just to reinforce. Paradox is not heading at, okay, we always need to make hit games. But we will be always trying to embrace change. We will always try to learn. We will always try to become better. And we will always try to get control over things where you can get control. Because it's just what counts in the end. Of course, not forgetting about fun factors. And I think this is it. This was my last slide. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, time for questions. I'll try to run around somehow.
Hello, I'm Munoz. Thank you for the presentation. It was very nice to hear some presentation from outside Lithuania. And I have a question. You were talking about business, and you mentioned a few times business pillars. Mm-hmm. So could you give an example? What is business pillar in Paradox? Because I couldn't understand what do you mean by that?
It's a combination of different, let's say, aspects of the game. It includes, of course, like the creative vision of the game. How it plays, what is the gameplay, what are the core loops, is it a strategy, maybe not strategy, because we also did like a couple of RPGs titles. So it's like description of the gameplay and what we want to achieve. It's important to map out core principles. For example, gameplay, is it multiplayer? It's important. And the core, I would say the main principle for the pillars is to make them specific. So you cannot say, we will make the awesome game. This is not the principle. The principle is that we're making the game that is a strategy, that is, I don't know, isometric like map, what have you. It's like it's a historical game because, this is what we also like know how to do. It will be featuring this particular era. And the gameplay, session to session, playthrough to playthrough, and I forgot this one.
So, so
doesn't matter. But the thing is that yes, it features certain aspects of the gameplay, but very specific ones, which will influence the development afterwards. And then, of course, the business aspects. For example, languages, platforms, storefronts, because it might be actually different here, and all of these things. So again, to compile, like not only things that might actually be like described in the GDD, but also something that we can, of course, like measure on the business side on publishing. It can vary from game to game a little bit, the format. I would not say that we have like a template for how we actually put them up, because again, we do lots of different games, and it doesn't make sense for us to create the same format for all of these pillars. But we try to kind of, map out at least certain aspects. Or for example, we also can include there how much time of development, how much money we want to put in the game to develop. And of course, like ROI, all of these things, yes.
Okay, understood. But for me, it sounds very similar to game development pillars. So
yeah.
How different are they from game development doc pillars? Because what you said, it's like it's very similar. Like
because it is.
Yeah, but
I would say this is like the thing about vocabulary. I mean, lots of things that we're doing, probably you do the same thing. We just call them differently, and that's it. So if you say that this is something similar to what you call, development pillars, right? So it's fine. I mean, that's
because for me, at least I had the impression that when you're saying game business pillars, like from other industries, is like how process going, or it's customer oriented, or it's something. And I thought maybe you saying, okay, this is our business pillar. With this game, we will be community driven, and we're thinking about.
Yeah,
and then we have a game doc that how to make the game community driven by making multiplayer or something.
Yeah.
So I had this impression.
We, of course, have because publishing has a huge department of like research, and they compile also their section of these business pillars, which is consistent. And I don't know if it's the same what you're meaning, right? But since the question, I can describe it a little bit more. So they have like the whole research of the market, and also like, let's say, player profiling. So basically, like, I don't know, our core audience, people who will be definitely buying the game, people who might actually consider to buy the game, people who might be outside the audience and we want to reach them, and all of this profiling is also going there. And they usually have lots of other information that they're putting together. It's like more marketing specific. But business is not only about like money or, let's say, ROI in our case. It's a lot about marketing as well. But this is probably also close to what you described. Yeah. No problem.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I wanted to know more how objectively can you find a time to kill your babies, like you said, because it's really hard. And maybe before the vertical slice, you can believe that it's not possible to get the full potential.
Yeah, and honestly, we're not perfect in this. I wish we were. You ask basically about how objectively we can understand that this is actually a killable game.
Yep.
I don't think we can. I think that we try right now to detect, let's say, failing games and failing core loops in the pre-production, which is basically finishing with vertical slice. Sometimes you cannot do this objectively because you think, maybe actually if we tweak this particular system, maybe it's going to work. Maybe if we're going to, I don't know, like, put emphasis a little bit on this particular factor, maybe it's going to work. But, there was a period in Paradox history when it really like blew us in the face. And we started to understand that we spent too much money on projects that are not actually leading us to anything. And this is the case. You can always, find the perfect game. You can always, and players will be, not players, but developers will be always trying to, okay, but maybe one more chance, maybe one more chance. How we deal with this right now, and again, I'm not saying that this is perfect. We say, okay, so guys, the pre-production stage is for identifying if the game is fun and if we can build it. Those are two very important key factors. Not only the game is fun, but we can actually build it. And your team has experience and expertise to build it. We put requirements on the stage that are connected with core like loops and fun factors, which we check during the user research, and dev diaries and collecting sentiment about what people think about this. It's not perfect, but it's still something. And of course, external internal feedback. And then we also check if the processes and everything in terms of like production is ready to actually build the game, because we had experience with studios that are kind of hitting on something super cool, but they just cannot break through. They just cannot build it. They're constantly failing. And this is also a very bad signal for you. And it's very, like, it's a sunk cost fallacy. You're trying to get it, right? But this is so cool concept. Let's just move on. Maybe they will build it. And year is coming. Money is burned. It is not going anywhere. So you want to, avoid this. So putting some barriers, putting some hard requirements on actually, like not only fun factors, but also like requirements for production is the key. And we also try to do, we say like, okay, you can have 2-3 iterations. You have a key gate when we analyze everything. You can try to resubmit 2 or 3 times maximum. But if you're failing afterwards, sorry, we need to move on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
If I can get one very short follow-up question is, if you're killing those games before like announcements, right? Then you don't have enough data probably from the outside world. But
No, we don't.
have you killed already games in production that have had like marketing spent on them?
We haven't killed a game, like killed the game after the announcement. If it's announced, it's done. But you probably heard about Bloodlines, right? So it was like kind of pushed. So yes, this is unfortunate. This is exactly why we don't like it. You want to be sure when you're announcing the game it's going to be happening. Usually, we don't want to actually move on too much with marketing. Like, if we're not sure that the product is going to be happening.
Thanks. One more short question, if it's okay. It's very far away. Okay.
Throw it.
I believe the most important question of this evening, what's the next game of Paradox?
Sorry, I didn't hear you well.
What's the next game of Paradox?
Next game?
Yeah.
Now I need to quickly remember what we already announced, but we haven't announced yet. You need to give me time because I'm not gonna be ready to answer this question, unfortunately. I mean, we have actually multiple releases for next year, but I really don't remember what was announced, what was not, and I'm just very much afraid of breaking NDA here. But we released the game a month ago, Victoria. So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.